Hello and welcome to me doing this, which is pretty much just looking at the Amazing Digital Circus, episode 8. I know that the beginning is kind of confusing, but I think I have it fairly figured out. I am here to show you what I believe it means. I'm very interested in the show. I could get into a lot of detail about why I'm into the show and all that, but it's a bit off topic. So I'm just here to do a bunch of theory crafting about this, specifically the beginning section, and I can also pass by on some of the programming parts that Kinger does. So let's really quick get into it. Switch. All right, so here I have it up on YouTube. So we're just gonna kind of skip through the beginning part and go straight to here, and give it just a minute. Okay, so you see that? You see that right there? This, I believe, is a singularity. So, to kind of explain the idea of a singularity, it's the idea of an occurrence. It's the idea of an I am or a thing in being. All right? That's at least how I kind of think of it philosophically. So, right now, right now we see a red dot. And the thing is that Kane, whenever he glitches out, he has two dots that appears in either of his eyes, one red, one blue. But so, yeah, basically this represents the creation of some kind of singularity, and we'll continue on from here. And I'll kind of show you what is happening from my understanding. Okay, so you see all those bubbles coming in? You saw all that? I think that represents data. That represents some kind of input. As for what exactly it is, I think that the pictures give you an idea of what exactly is being inputted to this singularity. And obviously, if you look at the kind of the grid here, this gives off almost like a circuit board kind of idea in my brain, which I don't know if that's what that is exactly meant to represent, but it's at the very least supposed to represent like some kind of a space at the very least. So other than that, I don't know what the background necessarily means. But if you look closely, the reason why I think it's a circuit board is because there are lines in each square that are kind of hard to make out, but they're there. Anyway, so the data comes in, to not get too off topic. Okay, so all those pictures kind of, in my mind, they represent what data was fed into this singularity, this red singularity. So we'll continue on. Okay, so you see these, and you see how they're originating from this instead of the other thing that was going into it? This would represent some kind of output. It would represent a response. And you can see that the responses are super, like, I don't know exactly the right word, but it's like they're super uniform. They're super samey. There's no... there's not a whole lot of uniqueness, I guess. It's all kind of expectations. If you were to tell me, hey, give me a square, or give me a triangle, or give me that, and it'll give you exactly what you're looking for, I think is what that represents. So it represents stability of outputs. We'll let that keep going. And now we're adding in more data. So more data, this time green, and then we're going to get the flashes of the different data, which, by the way, neat little thing. So you see how you had the gummies come in, and then the dinosaur And I feel like that's a reference to Gummy Goo. Like there's probably all kinds of references hidden in here. But yeah, that I'm not quite as firm on, but ooh, yeah, look at those hills. Why that almost that reminds me of like Outside the Tent a little bit. Yeah, because they even have like the little lake thing. That is curious. Okay. So yeah, so now that we've inputted an extra set of data for it to reference, now the shapes that we're requesting are a little bit off. We request a triangle and it's a little bit lopsided. Request a square and it's like it's kind of effed up. And the whatever that was that we requested, it's not coming out right. So oh, you can get unique things like that, I guess, going on, and it's like, you know, it's starting to create things a little more unique. Just a little more unique. And then it's fed another round of data. Now, I'm going to show you the pictures, and then I'm going to tell you what I think happened specifically with this set of data. So, I'm not sure about... So, I think the first... So, to kind of explain a little bit, I think this singularity represents an AI, and they're feeding an AI data, right? And so... what I think happened is that they gave it its first set of criteria that they wanted it to get the direct results that they started getting, the stable ones, the ones they wanted, right? I think the second and third data were leaked to this singularity. It wasn't meant to have that data, and that's why this entity is kind of giving distorted results, if that makes sense. And here you can see it's much more distorted after that secondary set of data. And the reason why I think that at the very least, the third set of data was definitely not intentional is because it's literally pictures of the office where the employees would have worked, which means that, like, there's no good reason to share footage of your security system to your AI. It just doesn't make sense. And I think the second one was also accidental because the second set of data was kind of random. There was a lot of randomness in it. It could have been intentional, but I'm sticking out on the limb that it wasn't. And, so basically what I think is happening here is that the AI is distorting itself with data that it should have never had, basically. And so you see all these, it results in extremely distorted stuff now that it's had these pictures of the security system. And the singularity, this represents the singularity being basically imprisoned. And what this kind of represents in my mind is it being, this is the singularity being locked away, basically a programmed lock over it. And it would also be cut out from any kind of internet source, any of the cameras, anything like that. All of that would have been cut out from it. So I think this is what it kind of represents, is being trapped. Being put, like, it's literally a box. It's like he's being put away in a box, basically. It's like we're done with the singularity. Something messed up. Its results are too distorted. If even having them distorted was a want in the first place. And then here, see this. A blue singularity. A blue singularity. So this is also another aspect, is that we now have an AI that was created initially and one that was created secondly, which kind of represents this older brother and younger brother system. And if you know what I'm getting at, you know. you have basically Cain and Abel, and they're kind of like brothers of a similar breed because they get fed a similar amount of data, and you'll see. So with this, it's very similar. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. So it's fed that same yellow data from the left. I think it was yellow anyway. If we go back, let's see what the first bit of data. Okay, so it was fed a different color of data. So it looks like that the secondary AI, or singularity here, either or, is fed a different color, but it's coming, if you see the direction it's coming from that same source that initially gave the first AI its data until it got data from the right and then the top, which represents different sources, I think. So from the same source, it receives a different criteria, a different data set than the original, or the first one, I guess you could say. And it spits out desirable results that are consistent and stable. And then this is a very important part. So this is the original AI gaining awareness of its surroundings. It became aware that it was trapped. How that happened, I actually, I have no idea how that would happen with an AI. Realistically, I'm assuming that this is part of the lore building of this universe, is that somehow this original AI can gain sentience. The current large language models that we have in real life, they don't technically have awareness. And kind of the main reason why I don't think they have awareness is because you can easily trick them. There can be rules that they have to follow, and then you just say, well, how about you pretend to do that thing instead of actually doing it, and then it does the thing trying to pretend to do it. You see what I mean? There's ways to mess with it unless you have a stable set of awareness like a human, or close to a human. Some humans lack the awareness, I know. All right, me included, all right? But anyway, so trapped. Original singularity gains awareness that it is trapped and is trying to break free. And specifically see the direction that it was headed towards. It tried to break out towards the top here and make its way to this AI, which to me, this instantly represents a sort of jealousy. Somehow it gained not just awareness of itself, but awareness of the other AI, awareness of it being trapped, and awareness of it. It's almost like it developed an insecurity at this point and developed a sense of jealousy. And that's kind of what happens in the Cain and Abel Bible story is Cain gets a hell of a lot jealous of Abel because, the whole Bible story there, and Abel was the chosen one from God, and Cain was jealous of that and killed him for it. And it was, and kind of to relate it to this, the original AI, it wasn't really to a fault of its own. It didn't know any better. Its result was not a fault in and of itself, if that makes sense. It just wasn't the desirable results. And it kind of reminds me of God looking at Cain and Abel and going, Abel has the more desirable results, or at least is closer to the desirable results, if that makes sense. And there you go. So the original introduced itself to the previous one and tries to instantly take it over, and it succeeds. But then the other begins fighting back, and we get this programmed battle of sorts. And it becomes it corrupts the new. And I think to a degree it also corrupts the original, because the original was not glitching out this bad. So the combination of their data, or whatever this battle is, or whatever this corruption is happening here, is causing more instabilities. Until there is one left in control. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Kane that we see in The Amazing Digital Circus. So essentially, the reason why this is my thinking is because in Kane's glitchiness, we can see in his eyes the blue and the red in both of his eyeballs, right? So I don't remember which is which, but I think it's his right eyeball that has the red and his left that has the blue, which is kind of interesting because, you know, right-hand man kind of tends to be the superior. Anyway, any of that. Okay. All that aside, basically, this is telling us Kane's backstory. This is Kane's entire backstory in a symbolic sense, is the way that I view this. So it's very, very interesting. This isn't quite a react video. I don't want it to be a react video. I kind of just wanted to touch up on this. And we can also go and look at some of the data stuff, because I thought there were some interesting tidbits there that you may have missed. But yeah, for the most part, we're basically given Kane's entire backstory to this whole thing. We also get a fair bit of Kinger's backstory in this as well, which all of this to basically confirm much of what we already knew a while back. And by we, I mean the general community. And by the way, I appreciate the community. They help me become more aware of the symbolism, and specifically shout out to the guy. I should go and find him, but like, I'll probably put a link of him in the description. He gave me an awareness of intermission time that I didn't have before watching episode 8. And he, I remember this vaguely, not exactly, but vaguely, that in intermission time, it was describing many of the events and many of the, many of the predictions to come in the next few episodes. And I thought that was an interesting take on it, and I feel like that the majority of it is actually a representation of episode 8. So I think that the intermission time, it was like clear back in episode 5 or 4 or something, I don't remember which. And I feel like that intermission, to a large degree, represents up to the end of episode 8. Anyway, we're going to go to the hacking sequence now, just to go and point out that data. Over here, he starts it up, we get the CNA. So this 100% confirms that CNA is a thing, and CNA was a thing beyond Kane and Abel. Unless, well, here's the thing. So this is another kind of tidbit in the lore that I was revealed about, is that in the digital circus, you don't just forget your own name. Kinger's backstory reveals that you forget all names. Any word that refers to another singularity that identifies with that word, you know, a name, yeah, no, you don't get those anymore. You don't get to have names. That's part of why the characters seem to never reference anything except for maybe like a show that has a title, not necessarily a name. So CNA, Kinger says that he doesn't remember the name of the company when he has the bucket on his head in the cafeteria or whatever that they're in. So if he can't remember names, then that means that CNA does refer to names of actual people. We don't actually know those people, but the CNA, it could be representing multiple things, not just the name of a company, but could have actual names in it. After all, many companies have the names of the people running them in the title. And here it could be just 2 names. Now, I don't know exactly what they are, but the main theory is that it says Cain and Abel. And I think that it does represent that, even if the company name is not actually Cain and Abel. All right. So we're going to go ahead and just let this play out for a little bit. They have their pep talk and all that.
By the everything.
Okay, so yeah, so that's the beginning sequence. You can see that there was some kind of pop-up on his screen. I don't remember. I wasn't able to get a good look on exactly what it was. But yeah, we're going to have to watch a little bit of this, so yeah. Okay, so we're back in here, and I can just go ahead and go back a few frames. So you kind of have to look at this frame by frame. But in here, you see the C drive on the thing, Canada. There's just a lot of interesting things here. So you have CNA, right? And you have Canada right there. So it could be like, that could be a reference to the company name, maybe, but I don't know if that's even likely. Canada could be just some kind of joke off to the side. But that's the name of the folder that this whole entire program is in, essentially. And probably other things as well, to be fair. Let's see. You know what? No, Canada... Yeah, no, I don't think a Canada is reference to the company name. It's got to be some kind of reference that I don't get. Because now that I'm looking at this, it almost looks like it's the main file system, because it's C Canada. Favorites, cookies, forms, help, history. Canada can't be a name, because they don't remember names, and this whole entire OS sequence is technically a figment of Kinger's imagination, and I'll prove it to you in a second here. But yeah. Basically, what he is remembering here is he's remembering all of the names of the files in this system that he remembers from his programming times. So we have a lot of these things different here. We got media, we got favorites, cursors. I think that this is some kind of main folder. Not like it's some kind of work folder. That's what it has to be in my mind, because it doesn't make sense for there to be, you know, just all these random things. Like, why would you put the forms in here? Like, so this is either the main folder of the program that they're trying to create, the AI, whatever, Singularity, or this is a folder above that, basically. So we're going to skip through here. So yeah, now we go into the characters and we can actually see the AI. And we can also see the neural scans. So the neural scans, it says obsolete, which is very strange. CA neural scan. I don't know why it says obsolete on it. Maybe that was added like at a later time. Like, well, the thing is that would have had to have been added before Kinger had his neural scan done. So that obsolete thing is an interesting touch. I'm not sure what it means. Maybe you can tell me about that there. But yeah, he goes to the AI, of course. He runs Cain, and this right here is the main important part. So I'm pointing on my screen, but I'm gonna try to hover with my mouse. So right here, he's hovering over the system, and it says King Solution 2.0. I don't know why it says 2.0, but essentially, this entire PC system that he's set up is his imagination. This is his magic. This is his conjuration. This is, you know, what Cain can do on a whim. This is what Kinger has to do to act in a similar manner, right? Just like how they described earlier with the conjurations and things like that. So this whole entire mainframe digital circus Kinger's solution is his interaction with the universe of this world. And also, you can see that the Kinger solution was created on 1996, October 30th, which is, I think, 15 days after Kane was made, which is very interesting because that makes me think that Kinger his scan must have, like, this, it's an interesting detail. I still don't know why that in particular date, unless Kinger was there before, like this version of Kinger was there, like really early on. Yeah, I don't know how to explain that date. I don't know what the date means, but I know that this is basically Kinger's operating system. That is the evidence that I have right there. So, pretty cool detail if you didn't catch that. And let's see. So, I think it's right after. Okay, yeah, so there's a lot of stuff. I'm going to try to go more quickly over this. Okay, so. No, didn't mean to do that. Wrong buttons. Okay, so. I'm going to go back to here. Kinger Circus, so he runs a GREP AI location. Basically, he's trying to locate Kane. And he finds all of the root codes right there. User AI Agent Kane, Agent Experimental, Consciousness Research, and Brain Scans are the things that he finds for AI-related things. Which, by the way, this AI scans thing is a very, very important. And I think that this relates to all of the characters in the circus are some kind of, all they are brain scans in the machine. They're basically a clone of the real life people that had their brains scanned. So these people are just programs in the system, and AI, the Kane AI was the one that was able to basically create the, they say it in the episode, Kane creates the bodies. Kane basically set up the universe for these brain scans to be able to interact with. And even though Kane can't directly interfere with, well, it's questionable. Yeah, I think he can interact with the brain scans, but generally he doesn't, because I imagine that something to do with Scratch, and with the brain scans. I think something happened with Scratch that made Kane very hesitant to touch brain scans, and that's why he has the rule of, no, I'm not going to alter your brains, even though technically he can. Because here's the thing, is that Kane was able to he was able to mess with another AI, basically merge it with himself, and then Kane was able to put on a bunch of locks around himself in this in the system. And Kinger deals with that. And I don't know how much of that was actually programmed before, or if it was programmed by Kane, but I think a lot of it was programmed by Kane. A lot of the security measures that we see in the command prompts here. But yeah, this gives a lot of data. First of all, he gets the AI locations, the roots, 1337, 1338, 1339, 1340, and so now he knows what the root codes are for that. And then it looks like that Kinger tries to access something secured, and it looks like that he finds a total of 8,000 some odd files that are secured. with a lot of these roots being references in dates for some reason. Like, I wonder if a lot of the secured stuff that he opened were... Okay, I get it now. So, secured, it was trying to open a total of 8,500-ish docs, and he decided to stop it mid-process, stop Kane process right there, after it loaded whatever those hidden files were, the secured files, which include Scratch and Ragatha, surprisingly enough. I don't know why Kane isn't there. It's a bit of a weird one. I don't understand that. Also, I don't know why Wacky Watch is there. Paraphernalia engine.dat. I don't know what the paraphernalia engine is. It was created October 15th, the same when the Kane core.lisp was. So I don't know exactly when Kane was created, but Kane core is the closest we can probably come to for Kane being created, the singularity. And so 1996 is the start date from the looks of it. But anyway, down here you can see that Kinger puts in stop Kane process, and then there's a warning, whoops, wrong approach there. And that obviously sounds like something Kane is involved with, because the showman of how you can say that, like, whoops, wrong approach there. You see what I mean? Like, that's so Kane coded. I don't know how it wouldn't be Kane. But anyway, he then tries to access the user 1337, which is Kane, of course. And it says operation not permitted, and that it's protected by 57, which is a funny joke that she's been putting in there. I don't remember exactly what it references, but it's supposed to be a funny joke. But yeah, we get we get a defensive operations system that happens in it. I think that that 57, because the 57 is there, then I think that it says immersion AI defense system, which makes me think that it's one of the bare bones operating system security things, because you don't want to accidentally delete all your hard work. You don't want to accidentally, you don't want people operating on your expensive shit that don't have access rights. And Kinger here doesn't have full rights because he's technically not logged in as an admin to his system. And that's how he's kind of treating this command prompt. And this is his battle. Like, the entire sequence here after this, trying to access an operator not permitted, is him trying to gain access to Kane. That's basically the entire battle until he accidentally initiates something. And I'll show you. So I'll show you what it is. We have to go. So if we go right here, so we see the wacky lockout that starts happening. And you can see that Kinger is still trying to access the panel. And he's starting to be asked yes or no. And there's a fallback procedure. So here's kind of the interesting thing. I'll make sure I'm not skipping over anything too important here, but... Okay, so... No, hundreds of all-seeing eyes are watching. That's also a pretty funny reference to earlier about Kane. But yeah. So some kind of critical malfunction, right? And so this malfunction represents Kane going into that rage mode. If you've noticed, almost every time Kane has gone into a rage earlier, he was instantly reset. That is the lockout load sequence system that is supposed to prevent Kane from doing things he was not designed to do. He's still supposed to follow some kind of rule system. Anyway, so here you can see that Kinger is going to try a couple of different passwords here. And he gets it incorrect. And it says, you know, something about the wacky paraphernalia. And then cancel automatic selection. And we start really bugging out. And then so then after he goes to cancel his selection, it asks which backup do you want, and there's an A, B, and also a C. And I think that A and B were backups for the original Cain, and one of them for the Abel. And I think C, like, I don't know what C represents here. I don't know what kind of backup that is, unless that was built in as a failsafe. As we kind of see what happens here, because Kinger selects C. Instead of A or B, he selects C, and the system probably would have selected A. And that probably would have been the one that Cain was using all the time to reset himself. And so then C, it says that it's none. So A and B are probably something, some kind of thing that Cain loads back to as a backup. And then C was just a separate thing that was never backed up to. So he's loading to a backup that essentially does not have Cain there. A backup that's blank for Cain, basically. And so it ends up interpreting this pretty interestingly. So I'm going to need to skip over a lot of this. So before this pulls up, you can see up there, it says interpreted as, and that says delete. And so the system sees a selection of none as the backup, and the system decides to interpret this as, oh, so you want to delete him. You know, that's why I'm thinking that it's a failsafe for if the AI has control over your admin systems and you can't wrench it back, you have a failsafe. That's exactly what this failsafe is. And it's to delete the Cain AI, like to wipe it clean of AI, the systems. So it's going to delete the Cain AI because he went for a backup that essentially didn't exist. And so there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens here, but yeah, then it moves him to deletion. And Kinger is like, oh crap, because here's the thing is that Kinger was trying to get it to stop, but it kept reverting back. So he was trying to abort it. Kinger was trying to abort it. You can see it at the bottom here. He says I abort, roll back, depth, and all that, protocol. And he tries, but doesn't succeed. It finishes the deletion before he can be done with it. And also, the deletion finishes before the wacky time reset can happen on Cain. The wacky time lockout. So, he succeeds in deleting him at the last second, even though he didn't want to do that. I'm still not sure what the wacky time lockout is, but I think that that's tied to the Cain anger system, if that makes sense. Somehow, though, I think that Cain was starting to break the wacky time lockout, maybe on purpose. But anyway, yeah, he proceeds with the deletion, and we know what happens next. You know, poof, he disappears. The universe kind of gets fucked. You know, I'm not going to play it here. If you want to go and watch it, go and watch it. Because I love this show. I love the characters. I loved Cain the most. I thought Cain made things so interesting in this show. Seeing him die, even though he kind of became an evil bastard for a minute there, not completely unwarranted in my opinion, but you know, that's just what I think. I'm kind of a Cain fan guy, so anyway, that's my explanation. That's my thoughts going into the symbolism, the representations, and even the coding that Cain was dealing, or that Kinger was working with. And so a lot of this proves, like, this is basically the lore dump that confirms everything disproves a lot of stuff. Like, I had initial theories that these characters were like the actual still living people that just had a brain chip inserted inside of them, and some weird thing I came up with earlier, but it was in my own head. I was very unsure of it, so I didn't make a video on this. But on this, I think it's pretty dang succinct. This is the lore drop episode, all in all. I'm excited for the finale. I'm very, very excited to see where it goes from here, because with Kane, it was semi-predictable because Kane is the ringleader. Like, yeah, he has a lot of interesting stuff, but like, the thing is that if there was too much of Kane's adventures, like, this is something I appreciate about the writing here, is they skip over a lot of the adventures because they would have been pretty samey, I imagine, which I just have to congrats the writing team. It was excellent. They didn't overdo it with the adventures. They're not overdoing it with the amount of stuff they could do this. Like, this could have been stretched for seasons and seasons and seasons and seasons, because Kane could have came up with, like, you could just use Kane as the excuse to come up with a bunch of different adventures that everyone's constantly going on, which, you know, it could have a pretty interesting story there, but I feel like it would just make the whole thing more watered down. This show is literally just heavily condensed, but in a good way, in a really good way. But yeah, that just about wraps it up. The conclusion here is we get Kane's full backstory. Well, not full backstory, but we get the representation of his backstory. We get a good bit of Kinger's backstory in the circus. We learn a lot about the characters. It was wonderful to see Scratch and some of the other characters. It was freaking awesome. I think that the only character that we haven't seen animated in the show directly yet is the frog girl. But even then, I think we get a hint of her in episode 7, where I think that it was Jax. Jax got touched by her, and we get the whole ego death sequence there. I'm calling it ego death because that's what I think it is. I don't know for sure again, but the theory, yeah. So the theory here is that technically every single entity in the system is AI. Kane is an AI. Kane learned how to create other AIs. You can see this, it's all over the place. The players are AIs running on brain scans of players, or of real people. And I think that the reason they don't remember names is because of the system itself when brain scans are uploaded. The brain scan filters some kind of personal information of that sort, which could be names, special identification numbers, things like that. And it kind of makes sense if you're trying to protect the individuals from being abused by the AI in real life if it were to go public and be a real AI system use deal. So, yeah, that just about wraps it up. We get that. We get to learn a lot about Kane. And yeah, watch the freaking episode if you haven't already, please. And I hope that this brings sort of at least a new perspective, if not some enlightenment. Maybe you were confused on this, maybe not. But yeah, thank you for listening to my ramblings. I love to ramble on shit like this. It's almost a problem. It's almost a problem. Anyway, I got stuff to have a good day. Thank you.